in the interest of Avery Havens. We're here today on our initial permanency hearing. We're conducting this by Zoom.
Avery is doing really good with her grandparents. We are moving forward and getting them licensed. So if adoption is a possibility, we can do that quickly. The only thing with Avery is she's had a little trouble making friends at the current school she's at. So she's getting moved to, she's wanting her grandparents are wanting to move her to the school in Canyon. But that's really the only update I have for her. For Tyler, he got moved to the form unit in Plainview, and his projected release date is November 17th, 2026. And for Katherine, I made a handful of calls yesterday, and her mother didn't know where she was at. Renee had heard from her because she had called her from a random number, and I called that random number. And then they told me that the last time they saw Katherine was a couple days ago. The probation officer said that sometime last week she was hospitalized for overdosing on fentanyl. But then I got a text this morning from Renee Havens, the grandparent taking care of Avery. And she said she finally, some guy that was Katie was staying with texted her and said she finally got herself admitted to Synacor and got her checked in last Friday evening. She doesn't, I haven't had time to confirm this. I got this text literally this morning. But the guy that she was staying with told Renee that she's checked into a rehab Friday evening. And that she seemed in good spirits about going. But I still haven't heard from Katherine myself either. And
you think this is at Synacor?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, if I may, on her plea, she was required to go to, is it CTR, I think? But it's a treatment center that's done through probation, a program they're supposed to do. My understanding, she didn't go in the filings on her criminal case. There is a motion to proceed that has been filed due to not going to that. Is my understanding from looking at the motion to proceed. I don't know if that's the rehab she's gone to or if it is Synacor, if she did check into it, but I know she was specifically under her probation supposed to go to this other one.
And the probation officer told me he activated warrants for her. I don't know like exactly how that works, if she can still go to the rehab if she has active warrants. But he did tell me that he had active warrants for her when I talked to him yesterday.
May I ask who the probation officer is, just so we may be able to contact him from our office?
Yes, sir. It's Jacob Williams. But that's all I have.
Okay. Tell me again, what was Mr. Havens' release date?
November 17th of 2026.
All right, and child is with maternal grandparents?
It's Mr. Havens.
Paternal.
Paternal.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right then, Mr. Barfield, anything to add today?
I think based on the circumstances, no, ma'am.
Okay. Well, at least you've got a window within which to search now.
Based on my experience, I think we will find my client probably in jail at some point.
All right, Mr. Noack, anything else to add?
Just real quick, and Tucker, thanks for taking my phone call yesterday. It's nice to be working with you. You understand that you called him Tyler, I call him Steven. Does he prefer which does he prefer to your knowledge?
Tyler. At least that's what his mother told me. That they go by their middle names, Renee and Tyler.
Gotcha. And you understand that he's a non-offending parent.
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to him on the phone?
I haven't had the chance to. When I called the facility, they said the only way I could contact him was through phone, and I have to send an email with a letter of approval and my information on it, and then they'll set up the call.
Gotcha. Gotcha. But to your understanding, sir, he is being cooperative with the department, correct?
Yes, sir. And he said he's willing to work services as soon as he gets out. I don't know if he was able to keep the family plan of service we gave him, but I also don't know how long this case can be extended for. But
Gotcha. Gotcha. And that was my next question. What can you get to him to allow him to work services while he's incarcerated, if anything?
his family plan, if they let me send it to him, I can get it to him. And if he can do any services while he's in there, that works, like his parenting classes or anything like that, or the counseling, but I don't know if they offer any of those services.
Okay, Liz, if you send me an email, Tucker, I promise you I'll work with you to see what we can't get done to have him work services while he's incarcerated. And one last issue. I understand that Tyler is having phone calls with Avery.
He is? I didn't know he was even having the phone calls with Avery.
I was going to ask you if they're going well. I will tell you, sir, that they are going extremely well.
Okay.
Tucker, if you reach out to me after this hearing, let's you and I work together, and let's see what we can't get Tyler Havens working while he's incarcerated.
Yes, sir.
Tucker, thank you so much, Judge. I'll pass the witness.
And,
Questions,
and
Mr. Noack? Is he having these phone calls via the grandparents? Obviously.
I'm not sure, but we can maybe ask him. I call him Steven, but I guess I'm going to start calling him Tyler. Tyler, can you unmute and answer the judge's question, please?
Yeah, I'm present, and yeah, I call my family every night, and you know I'll make sure I tell Avery hi and I love her and ask how she's doing. So it's kind of brief with her attention span, but yeah, I get to at least speak with her. Let her know I love her.
and,
And Judge, I have in my notes from the last
hang on,
hearing.
everybody. Whoa.
Sorry.
Are your parents on the phone call when you're speaking with her?
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's what I needed to know. All right, Mr. Noack.
I just didn't want to upset the apple cart. But I have from my notes from the last hearing that these phone calls have been happening and they've been going well. But Judge, that's all I have.
and Judge, I will say at one of the last hearings, this was requested since the child is placed with paternal grandparents. The court did approve as long as they were appropriate and grandmother was supervising those calls, then those would be okay.
Right, and I think I put some other stipulations, just that there wouldn't be any discussion about the case
Correct.
or anything like that. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so as long as we're working under those parameters, I'm fine with it to continue. Okay, Ms. Zabala?
Your Honor, Avery is doing really well. I got to visit with her on Saturday. The change of school is kind of twofold. Although it's Canyon ISD, it's not a Canyon's, it's in Amarillo, and it's right down the street from where grandparents live. And Avery is very likely going to repeat the first grade, and I think that's probably the best decision for her at this point. She did miss a lot of school last year, and the friends that she did make, they're all moving on to second grade. And so this change of school gives her a fresh start. She's just walking in as a first grader, like every other first grader. I think it's going to be a great move for her. She's talking a lot more. She seems very comfortable with grandparents. And I do think that school change will be a good one for her. And I've got no concerns about placement continuing at this time.
All right. If she repeats the first grade, I mean, do we have any hope of any hope of getting her back on grade level with her age?
I would definitely hope so, but I think she really needs some basics under her first. She's very smart girl. I have no concerns that once she really gets into the rhythm that she will do great. And so maybe after this first year base is underneath her, looking at some sort of path to getting her back onto age level. But she tried to do summer school this summer and it did not go well at all. And it really feels like she needs that base first and the confidence and but before we look at trying to fast forward her. But I do know your concerns in terms of, it's very clear that once they get behind, it's hard to get people graduated once they're behind.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Anybody with St. Francis have any heartache as far as the change of school?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
Okay,
Uh,
I think that makes sense, and I think it's probably a good move, so.
Yes, ma'am. And Your Honor, the only additional request we would have is drug screens for mom, if we're able to find her and locate her. If she is in rehab and is drug screened, that's fine, but if she's not in there, once we find if we could get hair follicle and UAs.
Okay. No problem.
I'm going to try to contact Mr. Williams and see if he knows where she is, and if I can locate her, I'll send an email out.
Thanks, Brooks.
All right, then today, well, let me just ask Mr. Havens, since we've got you on the phone, any questions that you've got today?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating that? I was having to unmute and the voice prompt kind of overruled you.
Okay, no problem. No, I just want to know if you had any questions about what you can do as far as your services or any other questions today.
I guess any services I can do, I'm more than willing to do, and I just need, I guess, probably whoever it is within the CPS department to contact, the TDCJ unit I'm at and have them set that up and get me enrolled. It's a little difficult to figure out information here.
Have you looked into as far as what might be available to you? Have you asked anybody?
I sent a request in, but I have not received that back. Like I said, it's really difficult to get information here. There's an education application on our tablets, which, there's a parenting while incarcerated class on there I've been taking, but I'm not sure that's what y'all are looking for exactly.
Okay. I know that Mr. Noack can send you attorney mail. So
Right.
he could send you a copy of your family plan of service, I know, without maybe some of the additional red tape that the department has to go through. What we'd be looking for would be general parenting classes for a child, the age of Avery. Lots of parenting
Right.
classes differentiate between, age groups, obviously. But I would think you would be looking at something that would be, ages, 7 to 10, kind of that
Right.
kind of range. And I just don't know what all might be available to you. So you might start inquiring on that on your end of things, and then Mr. Ivy, who is assigned to your case, will continue to assist in that and make sure you know at least what's required, and so will your attorney.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay. All right, then I'll continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I'll continue placement. I'm going to find a continuing danger to return the child home at this time. I will order Ms. Havens to drug test once we locate her. That will be hair and UA. And obviously we expect the department to continue to use reasonable efforts to reunify the family. And our next hearing date will be November 18th of 2025. And that will be on a 9 o'clock docket. So you can arrange to, or Mr. Noack can arrange to have you brought in again for that hearing if you'd like.
Yeah, I very much would.
All right. Okay, then I'll see everybody back in November. Everybody be mindful of some of the recent changes in the law that will be effective September 1st. Obviously, this case will not be concluded prior to that date. And so there are some key pieces of legislation that will affect some of what we do in this case. Okay. All right, then I'll see y'all back in November on this.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
In the interest of Asher Meeks, we're here for an initial permanency hearing.
Brooks Barfield, president and ready, and Tessa Helms is present, ready as well.
Asher is doing well in his placement. He's developmentally on target for his age. He's eating, sleeping well. He is currently teething. He has weekly visits with his mother, Tessa, that are going well. Tessa completed her psychological evaluation on, it says July 27th, but I believe that was earlier this month that she completed that. Oh, it's not even July 27th. Maybe it was June 27th. It basically, the recommendations on that is for her to address mental health issues. And so we would ask that she would go back to TPC and address those issues. She had stopped going back in, I think the last time she went was in March, if I remember correctly. And then she just missed a couple appointments. And so they discharged her. So we would ask that she would go back to that. She's working towards her parenting with Padre. And I believe her last counseling session is this week. She also currently continues to live in a home with people that have CPS history, which is concerning for us. We've discussed this with her. I don't think she has any plans of leaving this home.
Ms. Brown, since Dad signed a relinquishment on this case, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that has been filed, so no contact, has any contact been made with him since then?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Outside of the recommendations from the psychological and the concerns that y'all have discussed as far as living situations, any other issues in this case at this time?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Mom is still cooperating and working on services, correct?
Yes, other than TPC, she is.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Is there any barrier to her going back to TPC since they discharged her?
No, I think she would just have to start the initial process over since they discharged her, but she can still continue to go.
Okay. All right. Okay, then, Mr. Barfield.
You asked the question that I was going to ask of this witness, Your Honor.
All right, anything else to add?
Not at this time, Judge.
Okay. All right, then, Ms. Zabala.
Your Honor, I have no questions, and Asher is doing very well in placement, and I recommend that continue.
Okay, Ms. Helms, since it was a recommendation of that evaluation, that psychological evaluation, was it a psychological evaluation, Ms. Brown, or was it a psychiatric eval?
It was a psychological through
Okay.
Stonebridge.
That's what I thought you said. I wanted to be sure. All right. Since that was a recommendation, I am gonna order you to go back to TPC and take up where you left off with them. Now, I don't know what that means, you know, as far as initiating the process again, but you know, I think that's been a big issue in the case, and so, you know, I really want you to stay on top of that and address those issues.
My TPC was to see a counselor, and I've spoken with the counselor that I've been seeing on continuing with her. And I see her every Friday. I will continue to see her every Friday, even after the 6 weeks of counseling with her.
All right, that's somebody different than who you were seeing at TPC, correct?
I was not seeing a counselor at TPC at all for the entire time I was in their program.
Okay, were you there? I mean, because they were the ones that were helping you manage medication?
No, I was not prescribed any type of medications, nothing.
What were you doing with TPC?
I was supposed to be doing counseling, and they never got me a counselor. The entire time I was in their program, I told them that I that's what I would like to try to do was counseling, and if my counselor would have seen fit for me to start medications for any of my depression or any other symptoms that I would were to explain to them, and they saw fit for me to be a medication, then at that point I would start seeing a psychologist more than likely. And that's what I was told by the person that I had my initial with. And so I was supposed to start seeing a counselor, and I never did. That's why I dropped out of their program and chose to start seeing a counselor outside of them.
Okay, the counselor you're seeing now, is that one that's contracted through the department?
I would assume so, because I was I had their I was referred to them.
Okay, who are you seeing?
It is Melissa Lawson.
Okay, all right. So Ms. Brown, I'll confirm it. That is, she's seeing a counselor that is contracted through us, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any information that she was going to TPC for any other reason?
We just asked her to have a TPC evaluation, and then after that, they scheduled 3 more sessions, which she was a no-call, no-show for. So my guess is they wouldn't be able to assign her a counselor if she's not showing up to those appointments.
Your Honor, my recommendation would be that Tessa continue to be allowed to see Miss Lawson since she's already established a relationship. I don't know that there's any other diagnoses of any other serious mental illnesses for which TPC would be necessary in this case.
Your Honor, I would, my recommendation would be that Ms. Helms, and I understand she's going to a counselor, and I don't think we have a problem with that. But since she only made a couple of appointments with TPC and then quit going, would be to be reevaluated by TPC to let them know that she's seeing another counselor, and if there's any other things that they want her to do, she needs to follow through with those. But to continue the appointments until TPC discharges or not till she decides she doesn't want to go.
And Your Honor, it sounded like from Ms. Helms' testimony that they were going to evaluate her and potentially refer her to a psychiatrist for medication if needed, and it doesn't sound like that was actually evaluated to determine.
Okay, all right. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the big reasons why we got involved with Miss Helms, not only on this child, but obviously on the other child, was somewhat, you know, for lack of a better phrase, maybe kind of a mental breakdown. I mean, it was, I mean, with serious concerns about her mental health at the time of removal of the other child. And, you know, I think that's remained a concern about whether or not mom is addressing or taking care of those issues. Is that a gross misstatement of why we're involved in this in her life?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
I guess, Judge, if we could, if Tessa would agree to just go back, start the process, start the process over so that it can be determined in this particular case, so we don't have a like outcome that we're dealing with in the other matter. I could recommend to my client just go re-sign up, and see if she needs anything, and then if not, then have her continue with Miss Lawson. I don't know that way the court has the answers the court needs.
I'm perfectly fine with her continuing with Ms. Lawson as a counselor. And I'm not trying to make her see two different counselors or make two different appointments. My overriding concern is, Ms. Helms, that you get the evaluation and follow through with them long enough for them to determine whether they think you might benefit from talking to a psychiatrist and whether you might benefit from medication. Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do have concerns about why we got to where we are. And if there's something out there that maybe can help you and would prevent anything like this from ever happening again, I think it'd be great. Your probation, I don't know if that may be a term of your probation as well. I don't know. I don't have any of that in front of me, and I don't recall off the top of my head.
Well, so whenever I had spoken with them, they said that if I did not want to be put on medications, that they would refer me to a counselor, and that's what they had done. And that they told me that once I started seeing the counselor, and if the counselor had saw fit for me to start seeing a psychiatrist, then I would start seeing that. And since I hadn't started seeing any counselor whatsoever since I started their program, I decided that I was going to go start seeing another counselor. And I had discussed that with her as well, that I would prefer not to be put on medication and whatnot, because I would like to try to handle these, like everything myself in like whatever manner I can possibly do so. And if it comes to a point where I cannot manage it myself, along with the counseling, then I would request through her to be referred to a psychiatrist and be evaluated by them as well.
Are we getting any progress notes from Ms. Lawson? That's a question for Ms. Brown.
Sorry. I believe that she's processing through the events that led to the removal of her daughter with Miss Lawson, and that's going well.
And Your Honor, I've spoken with Miss Lawson. The counseling's going really well with Miss Lawson. So I mean, maybe Miss Lawson, for based on the conversations I've had with, and I'm not trying to, I've had with Miss Lawson, the counseling is going, and even before the last hearing, the counseling was going great. So, I mean, I understand the court's concern. I really do, obviously. But I think Tessa is making significant progress with Miss Lawson, and I certainly wouldn't say that if I didn't, and I'm basing this off conversations I had with Miss Lawson's prior to the previous hearing. So and if Miss Lawson feels that she needs to see a psychiatrist since she's been counseling her, I think we could accomplish the same thing with Miss Lawson that we're asking TPC to do. So I think we're duplicating things potentially, and I know that's not what the court intends or wants to do.
Well, I'll try to make this as short as I can. Here's Ms. Helms, here's my concern. At some point in time, we will be out of your life. There won't be any Ms. Lawson being provided to you. You'll be on your own, so to speak. Okay. Mental health is a long-term commitment. I mean, it's just like having a drinking problem. If you don't take care of it and you don't address it, and you don't live with it every day, or do what you've got to do to manage it, then trouble is ahead. The same thing is true of mental health. And for most people, you know, that doesn't just suddenly go away. Those issues don't. They're there. They can surface in different capacities, but this is more about long term. Do you have the tools that you need to make sure you don't ever find yourself in this position again? So, you know, it's kind of like now's the time to really evaluate what are your needs and, you know, what really does work for you. I understand your medication, what I would call your kind of medication resistant, and there's, you know, nothing wrong with that unless you just aren't able to manage things without it. And
Absolutely.
some folks just can't manage to they can't manage to get through a 24-hour period of time that's productive time without some medication. Okay. Whether you're one of those or not, I don't know the answer to that. What we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to find out the answer to that. All right, we've got some time in the case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick this back to Ms. Lawson. I'm gonna order in lieu of her going back to TPC. I'm gonna order that she continue with Ms. Lawson during the pendency of this case. That's gonna continue. It's just indefinite. Unless Ms. Lawson comes to us and says she's discharged, I feel like there's nothing else that I can do for her. I don't have any other recommendations. She's on top of it. Okay? Obviously, I'm not going to make her go any further if Ms. Lawson feels like she's on top of what she needs to be on top of, you know. But otherwise, that's just going to continue indefinitely through the pendency of the case. So that needs to be reflected as far as a required service at this time. I'm not going to require her to go back to TPC, but to continue indefinitely with Ms. Lawson. I do want Ms. Lawson to know that this is an area that I want her to have in her mind about whether or not that's going to be a recommendation or not. I just want her to be aware of kind of what our expectations are. Okay, Mr. Trout, I'm sorry. What?
No, you're good, Judge, and I understand your ruling on this. I just want to voice from our stance, you know, the only information we've ever gotten that TPC only wanted mom to see a counselor was from mom. She just quit going to her sessions after 2 or 3 sessions. We don't know if TPC actually had other recommendations because she just quit going.
I hear you.
So, you know, that's our major concern. You know, it is in her probation that she follow the TPC treatment. It is been ordered through a psychological. It has been ordered, you know, through the court before. So that is our concern. There's a couple of different orders for her to go to TPC. You know, and I understand your ruling. I just wanted on the record, you know, our stance is just to go to TPC till they discharge her because they don't need to see her anymore, not because she quit.
Yeah.
So it sounds, all I can tell you about that is if your probation requires you to go to TPC, there's nothing I can do about that. I have no control over that. Make no mistake. What I'm permitting you to do has nothing to do with satisfying your requirements for probation. So you may be going to TPC one way or the other.
And Judge, that's kind of what I was referring to when I said duplication. It's my you know, if probation, and that's what I was gonna, you know, ask my client, that if she understands that if probation requires her to go to TPC, that if she doesn't do it, it would be a violation of probation, which causes a much, much, much bigger problem than what we're even talking about here. So
Mhm.
that's why I was thinking through probation, if she's required to go, she's got to go through there anyway.
So let's rewind, knowing that now. I mean,
I
what do you want to do? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm trying to give you a different avenue, but I can't make that happen through probation. So if you got to go to TPC anyway, you might as well just go. And you got to show up and you got to give them their opportunity to make their recommendations. I mean, you know, if I make my separate order and then they're still expecting you to get TPC, then yeah, you're gonna get, yeah, it's gonna be a double dip on you. But I have no control over that.
I spoke with my probation officer before it had gotten switched, and I let him know what was going on, and that I was searching for a new counselor as well. And then whenever I started seeing Lawson is whenever I had gotten switched over to the other this new one, and I informed her that I tried TPC and I never saw a counselor that by their recommendation.
And
Okay,
Judge,
but you know, they may not have reached that point with you if you quit going. But as long as your probation, as long as that order says what it says, if you don't do it, I mean, I don't know. Unless somebody files an amended order with your probation, I darn sure wouldn't be comfortable not going.
Which I'll talk to my current probation officer and talk to her about that. If that needs to be amended, then I will have that amended.
and that's got, I just want to make real clear to Tessa on the record, and it's her. If probation currently states, because the judge is the one that makes the probation order. And if
Yes.
you're, and I'm not a criminal defense lawyer, but if the judge put in the order in probation that you have to go to TPC, it doesn't matter necessarily what the current probation officer says. It's in the order, and and you need to follow through with that, or they could revoke you and you can say, well, I've had a conversation with my probation officer and everything. The judge ain't going to care because the judge said, well, I ordered it and you didn't do it. So the safest thing to do, in my humble opinion, is just go back to TPC because of the probation. The judge is cutting you a break here. And that would answer all our questions. And because I think what we're doing is we're on the hamster wheel, Tessa. And the only thing, and it's really kind of silly at this point that we're on the hamster wheel, and this is because you just need to go back to TPC and answer everybody's questions. And so the judge and even Mr. Trout is going to be saying, "Hi, okay, she's done what she's supposed to do. We're satisfied." And I think that would fix a big problem here. And I'm also concerned about what you just said about conversations with one probation, then another probation officer. I'm afraid that could get you hung up, and nobody here wants that to happen. If I'm going to be bold and speak for other people here. So if you would please just go do that. Would you just go do that for us all?
Yes.
And
So I'm not, okay,
and
at this juncture, you know, all right, like I said, we're doing a rewind. You know, this sounds like, I agree. I think you need to go to TPC for probation, and then we're gonna leave it as it is right now. You're gonna go to TPC also for us. If all that comes out of their evaluation, you know, is that you need to continue counseling, I'm fine with you continuing your counseling with Ms. Lawson. Hopefully probation would be okay with that too. But, you know, the question is, does TPC have any recommendation that they think you should see a psychiatrist? Just seeing a psychiatrist doesn't mean that you're going to be prescribed medication. You know?
No, they just said that they'd only send me to a psychiatrist if they saw fit for me to end up needing medications.
Okay.
That's
So-
all I was ever told.
So let's just go back. Let's get this evaluation done through TPC. Show up for those appointments, however many those need to be. Let's see what they say. Okay, now. Then you need to be sure to talk to Mr. Barfield about that. You need to talk to your permanency specialist about that. If there is some, hang on, if there is some, hang up or any snafu in all this, and we need to have another hearing to address it, then we will. But, you gotta go and give it a chance to let them get through their process, okay? And you need to do that really more for probation than what you probably do for me.
I'll see if they will send an email, because I gave them a sign off to send it to y'all as well already, and I guess they didn't send that to them whenever it had happened, because they do an evaluation before they recommend you to their counselor or anybody on their team. And so I guess I'm just gonna get them to email it to me as well. So if they for some reason don't send it to St. Francis, what their psychological comes out to be, I will get that email as well to just make sure that everybody has it. Because I know that they had done a psychological prior to me getting into what they call a case manager, and that case manager works with the counselor or the psychologist that you're referred to. And so and I'd only seen their case manager the entire time that I was there. And she can't really do much, because that's all she's there for, is the case management of what's my entire thing.
Okay. I want to make clear you understand, probation doesn't necessarily, they don't copy and send everything that they do to your permanency specialist, nor do we send everything to your probation people. There's cooperation between those.
No, TPC was supposed to send that stuff to St. Francis. Sorry if there was any misunderstanding there.
Well, okay. The way we're gonna leave this right now is that you'll go to TPC, get that evaluation, go for whatever it is that they're wanting you to do. That'll satisfy you with probation. And then if the only suggestion is continued counseling, at least from my end, there's no problem with you continuing to go to Ms. Lawson during the pendency of the case. So, but you gotta satisfy probation with whatever you gotta do for them.
Yes.
Okay. All right then. I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I'll continue child's current placement. Find a continuing danger to return the child home at this time. I do find that mom is in compliance with her service plan. And I will see everybody back November 13th of 2025. That'll be a 9 o'clock docket. I just ask that St. Francis stay on top of this situation, and Mr. Barfield, to the extent you can, about probation. I mean, if we're gonna have a hiccup with something, I'd rather know about it before November.
Absolutely. And Judge, I appreciate on behalf of the court's understanding and continuing Ms. Lawson, but I think, my main concern here too is that if probation's ordered, it just has to happen. I'm doing motion to revokes all day tomorrow. I know what happens here. So I appreciate the court's explanation to my client, and I will help Tessa any way I can to get that done. So if there's a problem, Tessa, let me know so I can let Mr. Trout know and the department know and everybody know. So if they need to talk to somebody over at TPC and say, hey, the court's ordered her to do this, y'all need to, help her out so we don't get in this situation that we experienced. So in any event, thank you, Judge.
Okay,
And Judge and Brooks, just for everybody's clarification, I pulled up the probation order. It does specifically say comply with TPC treatment plan on her probation, so that is on there. So, thank you, Judge.
okay. Thank y'all.
Judge, I think that's all I may have with you today. So
All right, sir.
I appreciate you, and I will see you soon, I'm sure.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Right then, I'll call cause number 99656D in the interest of Leslie Martinez. We're here today for our initial permanency hearing.
There's not a whole lot of updates. Alyssa has started a couple of more services. And in the court report, I stated that she was living with friends, but she is now living with an uncle and kind of has her own space in that area. And she's not working at this time, but she has put in some applications for some jobs that are not bartending and that are kind of in the vicinity of where she lives.
Ms. Slagle, what about, has mom tested for you lately? Drug, alcohol
No.
tested?
She is not drug screened at all since the beginning of the case.
Okay, so today we're needing hair follicle and a UA on mom?
Yes.
Okay, can you have the paperwork over there today?
Yes, I've actually already put it in, and I've already put in for transport to transport her. So I'm just waiting on replies back. I know the drug screen will for sure be in momentarily, and then I will find out about the drug screening. Or I'm sorry, I'll find out about transport.
Okay, all right. Do we need an alcohol ethanol screen also, or just drug screening?
I did put that in there also.
Okay.
All UA and hair strand.
Okay. Just so I'm clear on that, you did UA and hair strand, but I'm talking about alcohol screening and drug screening. They're both on.
Both of those in, yes, to clarify. UA for drug screening and alcohol screening and hair strand.
Okay, all right. Thank you, ma'am. Judge, we just asked that those be ordered today.
Do we know for sure we can get her there today?
I have put for transport, and I'm sure that I can ensure that she is there.
Okay. Ms. Layla, you're kind of talking over each of us. So
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So that's why we're not hearing your whole answer. All right. So my question was, because I want to make sure everybody heard the answer. My question was, can we assure that we will get her there before 4 p.m. today?
I believe so. I believe we can make sure that she's transported. As soon as we get done here, I will call transport and let them know that we need somebody for a court-ordered transport to drug screen.
Okay. Okay. Anything else as far as updates?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. Paternity testing came back on Devin Harris. It did not exclude him. So we would ask that he be adjudicated based upon the paternity testing, genetic testing.
And we did get personal service on him. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. He was served back in February.
All right. Child still doing well?
Yes, the child is doing well.
All right, then, Ms. Lucero.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Slagle, do you have good contact information for Alyssa? So once transport is set up today, hopefully that you'll be able to reach out to her and so that she doesn't miss those screens.
Yeah, well, I have her email address, and if she has Wi-Fi, I'm able to text her. But she does answer back to my emails.
Okay. And as far as, and so you stated that she has started working a couple more services, is that correct?
Yes, she has started her Padre class and her individual counseling,
Okay.
which I believe that first session should have been her psychosocial, but she just started, so I have not got that report back yet from Mr. Jennings.
Okay. And how often is Alyssa visiting with Luxury?
Her visits are supposed to be once a week. We've had issues with contacting Alyssa and getting that link to her, and then she had some issues with her app not working correctly. So we're going to try Zoom this week instead of Teams and see if that fixes her problem.
Okay. All right then. So it's if she has a connection or internet connection, things like that, it's supposed to be an hour a week. Is that correct?
That's
By video.
Yes.
Okay. So the child is placed out of area.
Yes, she is.
Okay. And just to be clear, at this time, the goal in this case remains family reunification, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And according to your report, the visits, even though Luxury is fairly young, the visits go well. Isn't that correct? According to your report?
Yes, Luxury is very engaged with Mom, and Mom's very engaged with Luxury during visits. You don't hardly ever see any kiddos last an hour on virtual, and Luxury definitely shows to have a great bond with her mom during those visits and is engaged the whole hour.
And Ms. Lego, I know that according to the report, Luxury is doing well in her placement. Is there a possibility? I mean, is it apartment or St. Francis working to try to get her closer to maybe they could start having in-person visits or?
We had put in for a placement request for closer, and then we had retracted that because we were doing a home study on a family member, and then that family member withdrew from the home study. So we will have to put that back in again.
Okay, Ms. Lego, I appreciate your time and help with the case. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, have we had any further contact with the father since the genetic testing came back?
No, I visited with him the day that we got the genetic testing back and let him know that we could ask him if he wanted to have contact with Luxury and start with some virtual visits. Asked about possible placement with him, and he said he couldn't be placement due to his son having some legal issues. And I told him, we could start doing visits, and I have not had any contact with him since then. I've texted and called and left messages with no replies from him. But we do have a courtesy worker that is going out there. I've not got her report yet, and it doesn't show that she's made her face-to-face with him. But we do have a worker that's going to try to see him.
Were they going to go over his service plan with him?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Zabala?
Ms. Slagle, you may have hit upon the information that I need in regard to visits. I've got notes that the scheduled last Thursday didn't happen. Was that because of connection issues?
Yeah, she was having issues with her getting the Teams to work, and she was having to download, re-download. And by the time she finally got on, it was almost 11 o'clock. Well, I think it was about 10:45-ish. And by that time we were already off. It was kind of hard to keep Luxury there waiting and not having anybody to talk to. So and then I talked to Alyssa, and we're going to try to do Zoom this time instead of Teams to see if that's better for her.
Great, that makes sense. And then I may have misunderstood this note here, but it sounded like maybe the last visit before this Thursday one was June 12th. I may be wrong on that.
It could be because I had some issues getting a hold of Alyssa, because she didn't have a phone anymore. And so was trying to make contact, and on my end, it was showing that the calls were going through and the texts were going through, but her phone was shut off. So then I decided to start emailing her, and I got a response from the email. So that's when we set up visits again.
Got it. Okay. So up until June 12th, there had been visits, and then they stopped. There was one scheduled for last week, but there wasn't there was a connection issue.
Yes, I believe there was one other virtual visit in between that June 12th visit. I'm sorry, I was trying to pull up my documentation because I'm the one who actually watches those visits, and I can't pull up my dates.
Okay. At any point since the last hearing, I'm just trying to get straight. Was mom in jail?
Yes, mom was in jail for about a month, maybe a little bit over a month, in May for some tickets and for DWI and in an open container. And so those charges are pending.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, so as previously discussed, I'm gonna order Ms. Martinez to go drug test today. That'll be a hair, UA, and alcohol before 4 p.m. Or as St. Francis can transport. And I'm gonna adjudicate Devin Harris is the father of Luxury Martinez and establish the parent-child relationship between them. I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator and continue placement of the child and find that there would be a continuing danger to return the child home at this time. I will expect the department to use reasonable efforts to reunify the family. All right, we will be back on November 18th of 2025 for our next review hearing. That will be on a 9 o'clock docket. Ms. Martinez, this drug testing is really important. So, you know, go get this done. We've got to have a baseline to know, you know, whether this is a problem, whether we're working on a problem, whether we've got, you know, whether we need to do more or less, or, you know, we just don't know until we start monitoring that. So, you know, you can work all your other services, but if we don't have any kind of history about drug usage or alcohol usage, you know, when we get down to a final hearing, that's potentially going to be a real problem. So failure to go do those is deemed a positive result. You need to know that if you didn't. Okay, I'll see y'all back in November.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you.
In the interest of Isaiah Gonzalez, we're here today for a status hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We're live streaming, and Ms. Galvan's making our record this morning. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Counsel Gene Graff and Crystal Potts on behalf of St. Francis, present and ready to proceed this morning.
Jeff Hill on behalf of Anthony Otero Bunker. He's present. I'm ready. And Judge, after the hearing is concluded today, or when the status hearing, the business of the status hearing is concluded, I'd like to make an oral motion to withdraw. Maybe we can take that up as well.
Okay, we'll see what kind of time we've got, Mr. Hill.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of Isaiah.
Now Garrett with CASA.
All right, thank you. Okay, just before we launch into everything, Mr. Hill, have you had any conversation with your client regarding paternity issues?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Okay. I'm showing him as alleged, Mr. Groff. Is that correct? Or is there something out there that I don't know about?
I'm not aware of there being an outstanding paternity issue, but I will need to research that, Judge.
Judge, we did plead him in as an alleged father because
Right.
him and the mother were never married.
Okay.
Okay.
So, all right, we'll address that here in just a minute. Okay. All right then. Who's going to give us the update? Ms. Potts?
Yes, ma'am. That would be Ms. Potts.
Okay, Ms. Potts.
Okay, so I've never done one of these before. I'm a little nervous. As far as Anthony goes, I have not had as much contact with him this time. I have tried to contact all of the services that he was supposed to be starting, and I have not heard back from TPC, but I am aware that he is out of compliance with probation. He did have a positive drug test there for meth, cocaine, and fentanyl. He has not drug tested for us. He did not show up for that. We also received a new phone number from him, some text messages that were quite interesting. And he did send out a Snapchat link to some of us that was sent on to the attorneys. Isaiah, he has refused visits. Ever since the time that we stopped the visit, after Stacy and I were redirecting Anthony's conversation, Isaiah he just calls and says he doesn't want to do it. He's scared. And so we have allowed that to happen. Stacy Zabala has been aware, Mr. Graff has been aware, and we've all been trying to work together on this. The home study on Brittany was denied. We did not find that to be good placement after some allegations that were made, an investigation that was done. We do have a current ICPC going for his aunt and uncle, which is Jamie and Stephen Otero, and they live in New Mexico. So that is in the works. However, in New Mexico, you have to be a licensed foster home. So they are working out the details of that right now.
All right. Did any of the relatives that the department contacted or any of the other names that father gave, have we heard back anything from any of them?
Stephen and Jamie are one of the names that Anthony gave.
Mm-hmm.
The others all have records that we just can't place there, other than the sister Esperanza, which she's very young, and she's raising I believe she's 15 plus her own little girls. And so that's a lot to place on her plate. She said if we couldn't find other placement that she was willing, but it was going to be very tough for her.
She's how old?
I believe she's 23.
Oh, okay, 23. I thought you said 15.
She's raising a sister that's 15.
A sister. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bunker, I see that you've got a question, and I'll get to you here in just a minute. Okay, anything else to report then from the department?
I don't believe so, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Hill.
Judge, Mr. Otero Bunker indicates that he's willing to work services. He's was hopeful that the child could be placed with Brittany Denny, although I just noticed prior to the hearing that I received noticed that the home study for Brittany Denny was denied. He's not aware of that. I haven't had a chance to tell him that. Like I said, I just saw the notification of service just moments ago. And I haven't had any other conversations with him about potential placements.
Okay. All right, Mr. Otero Bunker, what's your question, sir?
Okay. No, I just wanted to say that I am in compliance with probation. I go see probation next week. I've done one counseling session with intensive outpatient at Cinecor. I missed 2 last week because my car broke down, and it's over at the park, and I'm trying to get it back home. And then I had a visit scheduled with my son at the same time, and I didn't get a reply for today that it was supposed to start at 11, and I don't know what's going on. And the visit with Isaiah was only one visit that Miss Potts said that he was scared or not, or he was upset because the previous visit I had with Isaiah, at the beginning of the visit, they said, don't mention anything with the case. And all I said was, later on, I said, do you remember when you were scared to come home because of my mom, Abuela? And that's when they shut the whole visit down. They got upset, and they're like, no, you can't. Isaiah's too young to talk about this. And I'm just like, no, he's not. This is about how me and my son feel, not about what anyone thinks my son is too young or whatever. And because obviously he can be too afraid, but he's not too young to be afraid in their eyes. But in my eyes, when I ask him why he's afraid, he's too young to talk about that. So I don't understand where the who's drawing the line when it's my son. And also, there was a paternity test done when Isaiah was first taken into foster care back in September 30th of 2016 in Lubbock, Texas. And the paternity test was done by Child Services through Lubbock while I was incarcerated in New Mexico. And that's all I can think of right now, Your Honor. Thank you.
So did you actually did submit to genetic testing while you were incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're saying that had to do with Child Protective Services in Lubbock?
Yes, ma'am. That's where Isaiah was located until I was released in July of 2017, and got him later in I think it was May or March of 2018.
Was there any court involvement in that other than CPS? I mean, in other words, was the Attorney General's office ever involved or any court orders entered?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And then I was looking online about something, when at our last hearing, when Miss Denny had said something or whatever, but it was an article online that said that I was her estranged husband. It's just very weird to read that. I don't know who to bring that to. It's like that type of, I know don't believe everything I read, but in this article it did say that, and I was like, what is going on? I mean, I can submit the article if you'd like. I have the website and everything, but it was just kind of weird, like what's going on? Like, anyway, that was just very strange to read.
Okay. So with respect to visits with the child, he at his age, I mean, if they haven't started him with a counselor, they will be starting him with a counselor. And I don't know whether that's Ms. Potts, has that actually started? you need to unmute. You can just press your space button.
Sorry, it took my whole screen down. Yes, ma'am, he is in counseling already.
Okay, so Mr. Otero Bunker, why the child has certain anxieties or fears about certain things right now, that's more of a topic for discussion between the child and a therapist. I understand you're his dad, and that's we've got to determine that issue as well, but because you're just what's called an alleged father, I will look for this genetic testing that may have been done, but if it didn't resolve in a court adjudicating you as the father of the child, we still need to address that at some point. That's why they've probably deemed that maybe some of your questions or things that you were saying to him were inappropriate. That's an issue for the child to process through with the therapist right now. So
yes, ma'am, I understand.
you can
Can
talk
I
to
say
him.
something else?
Hang on, you can talk to him about his day and what he's been doing, and then when school starts again, how's school going, and does he have what he needs, things like that, but anything that is relevant to why we're here and why we're at the point we're at with him being in foster, you need to steer clear of that.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that. But may I say something?
Yeah, if you'll make it quick, because I'm running behind, so we got to keep rolling through here.
I don't understand what the situation is with what is being said, how my son is feeling, because he's never been that way towards me like that.
I don't know.
He's never been afraid to tell me anything. He finally told me the truth of the charge that I'm on probation for, what really happened. And it's like, what is going on? Like, is someone coaching my son to say something, or some other people saying something about my son that isn't true? Because he doesn't
not to my knowledge, sir, and that's the whole point of why some things are sort of off limits. I mean, we want the professionals to deal with that, and that's what we're trying to allow the child time to do. Kids process things differently than grown-ups do, and they sometimes just have to have a little time and adjustment before they will talk about things or before they will be truthful. And that's all we're trying to do is get to the root of what's on Isaiah's mind and why he feels the way he does about certain things. And that just sometimes takes time.
I understand what you're saying, Your Honor, but he's never expressed that to myself or anybody else that I know, his family or friends or neighbors, that he is feeling that way that Miss Potts is saying right now.
Okay. Well, I can't, all I can tell you is that I have kids in my cases all the time who've never expressed concerns about certain things to their parents. But once they're in care and they get in a therapist's office and they start working with a professional, all of a sudden, a lot of stuff comes out. So, just because he's never said it to you doesn't mean that it isn't something that's on his mind. Children don't want to hurt their parents' feelings. Children don't want to, they don't want to do anything to alienate or hurt people. And so sometimes they bottle things in and they don't tell some of the people maybe they need to be telling. But this is a process, so we're going to give it some time to happen. So
I understand that, Your Honor.
If he isn't sharing it with you right now, I don't know what to tell you. There's a reason probably, but
well, out of the 20 other people that have been around him, teachers, principals, counselors at the school, have never expressed anything towards me in that type of way. If Isaiah has said that to them, which I know is a privilege, client, privilege, like client doctor privilege, but nothing that he's afraid of me.
Okay. Well, let's just let it work itself out. We've just got lots going on and we need to let this work its way through. So, you understand whether or not you're in compliance with probation, I have no control over that. And, it's relevant to me whether you are or you're not, because it could certainly affect what's going to happen to you. But, we'll just see how that all works out. So, do you have any questions about the services that the department is asking you to do?
No, that I know that I am waiting on TPC to call me back, and I'll call them as soon as we get off the phone again. Let me think. No, not that I can think of, except, the visits there was one scheduled for right now, so I guess we'll have it after this hearing.
Ms. Potts, I suppose we'll work that out with you.
The visit was scheduled for 10 o'clock, and I messaged Anthony and told him that we would reschedule that because of court.
Okay, there's the answer.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Then I got a text from her saying that it's scheduled for 11.
Well, we'll look into it and make sure you get your visit.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Zabala, anything to add today?
Yes, Your Honor. I've met with Isaiah in person again, and he's doing very well in placement. I believe he loves his dad very much. I believe he loves his whole family. He had asked me about potentially living with his sister Espy, which I assume is Esperanza. And I know that Ms. Potts just addressed that. And that may not be a good fit. Jamie and Stephen sound like they would be very appropriate. I hope that works out in terms of New Mexico. I know that he got to have a visit with them. So I am hoping that placement could come through. But Isaiah was hoping to potentially live with sister. The way I addressed the visits with Isaiah, and he didn't give me a lot of information. I just said, these visits are going to be scheduled with your dad. And when they come up, you can choose what to do. But they're going to be scheduled. So that's how I left it. I don't know if we need to, make them therapeutic or just keep offering the visits and see what happens. So
my suggestion would be if we have another visit and we have inappropriate discussions or we have to cut it short, we move to therapeutic. If the child refuses the next visit, I think we need to go to therapeutic so that we can start trying to work through whatever the problem is.
that makes sense. And at this point, I do recommend that placement continue, and I hope that we're able to get progress with family.
Okay, and CASA.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did go see him. This kiddo is very smart, very bright. He's very wise for an 8-year-old, I should say. He's doing well. I didn't
Judge,
see any.
I'm sorry. I got a delay on my end, and the last thing I got was Mrs. Zabala saying to get progress with, and that was the last thing I heard.
Okay, let's back up for just a minute, Ms. Garrett. Hang on. Ms. Zabala, if you remember.
I believe I was saying I hope we get progress with potential family placements, and I think that's where I end.
Okay, you good, Ms. Galvin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Janelle, just start over.
I did go visit him in person, and he's very smart. I mean, he's very wise for an 8-year-old. Kind of shocked me as smart as he was, to be honest. He is doing well in the placement. He's enjoying it. He feels safe, and CASA's recommendation is I mean, I agree with if he continues to refuse visits, therapeutic, or, and have the therapist recommend, whenever he should have visits with his dad, or how they should go. My recommendation is remain in his placement, and St. Francis continue TMC with him.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Hill, if you can briefly, you want to make an oral motion as far as to withdraw?
Yes, Judge, just communication is not good with Mr. Bunker. It's not going to be a productive relationship. I don't want to point fingers to him, to me, to anybody. I'm just not sure we're a good mix. I've spoken to him twice since the last hearing. He refused to speak to me and demanded I withdraw on one occasion. On the second occasion, he seemed to be okay with me being his attorney, and it's not working. And I can foresee as we move forward, it's not going to work.
All right, Mr. Otero Bunker, is that what you want? Do you want Mr. Hill to withdraw and not represent you?
I mean, I'm not going to be opposed to how he feels. So if he wants to withdraw, you told me to not have him withdrawn, and then I yelled
that's
at
not
him.
what I told you. I told you that he was a very capable and very
Right.
fine attorney.
And you said
And that you should
it would
think
be a
very
good
hard
idea or something like that.
Hang on, Ms. Galvan cannot take you when you're talking over me. What I told you was that he was a very capable and a very good attorney, and that you should think very, very hard about whether or not you want to replace him. And,
Yes, ma'am.
when you get a court-appointed attorney, you don't get just to go pick out and shop for who you want necessarily. It's whoever comes up next on the list. And you may have a bigger personality conflict with that person. And I will just tell you that if I substitute someone for Mr. Hill this time, that's it. I'm not going to keep giving you different lawyers. It's not productive in your case. So what do you want me to do?
Mr. Hill's my first one, right, Your Honor?
I believe so. Let me double check. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, that Mr. Hill is my first lawyer, and because you said you're not going to keep giving me lawyers, I just
I'm
wanted
not. If you want him to withdraw and I appoint someone else to represent you, that's it. Understand you're stuck with them for the rest of the case. Because it isn't productive for you to keep changing attorneys. As we move through this case, it makes it harder and harder for them to get up to speed on things. They don't have the benefit of having sat through all these hearings. So I'm just telling you that I'll allow one substitution, but that's it. So you just need to think hard about whether you want me to do that or not.
Yes, Your Honor, I would, please.
All right, I'll tell Ms. Katie to substitute someone else in. We will notify you who that is. All right, then for today, I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I will continue the placement of the child with respect to the service plan. Mr. Otero Bunker, until between now and September 1st, I'm going to admonish you that failure to work your service plans is a potential ground for termination of the parental rights. However, we've had a change in the law. And come September 1st, that is a little different. Failure to work your services at that point in time may, be a evidentiary fact that's raised in any final hearing. And it can go to the question of the best interest of the child. And in failure to work the services certainly can be evidence that you have not demonstrated your willingness or your ability to make changes that would have mitigated the reasons for removal of the child. So failure to work your services alone after September 1st will no longer be a ground for termination of parental rights, but understand that those those things can certainly be raised as evidence in any final proceeding that may occur in this case. All right.
Judge, can St. Francis request that Mr. Otero Bunker drug test today at Care Express?
Sure. All right, so I will order you to go drug screen. You wanting hair and UA, or what are you wanting, Ms. Potts?
Yes, ma'am, hair and UA, and we will do the UAs as alcohol and substances.
All right.
Judge,
So
he may need a ride. I think he said earlier his car was broken down, so somebody may need to help him with some transportation.
Yeah,
Also, Your Honor,
hang on. Just a minute. All right, Ms. Potts, can we arrange for transportation for him today?
Yes, ma'am, we will figure that out, and I will get in touch with him.
All right, what is it, Ms. Brunker?
oh no, I had to reschedule probation. I was about to set up a doctor's meeting after the court hearing and stuff, so it's probably going to be, I don't know, 3 or 4 days before I'm cleared with my doctor to do any of that.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Oh, I'm sick at home.
With what?
I don't know. I haven't scheduled the doctor visit. I was talked to probation and got on the meeting with you guys.
Okay, well, understand, I don't know what probation has to do with this. I'm wanting you to drug test for us.
Right. Do you need my symptoms? I haven't seen a doctor yet.
All right, Ms. Potts, I'll make it the department's call. I mean, you can ask him sometime randomly within the next, 4 or 5 days.
Judge, the only thing is that he has not screened for us like he was supposed to the last several times. So I would like for it to be today if possible.
All right, then, Mr. Otero Bunker, put a mask on. If you don't have any masks, the department will come prepared with one. Put a mask on. You're going to go drug test for me before 4 o'clock today, and Ms. Potts will let you know about the transportation to the.
Okay, Your Honor, just to save everybody's time, I probably will test positive, so.
That's fine, but we need levels. We just,
Okay.
It's not
That's
fun.
fine. I just wanted to be honest with you guys instead of.
I appreciate that, but
Yes, ma'am.
we gotta get a baseline so we know whether we're making improvements or we're not making improvements. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Oh, you didn't ask with what? I was gonna say Tylenol 3 with codeine, but.
All right. Well, we're interested in what you have. That requires a prescription. So if you have a prescription for that, you need to provide that to Ms. Potts.
So what if the doctor requests that I stay home?
Well, I don't know that the doctor's going to supersede my order today. So you're going to put a mask on. You're going to go drug screen. You're going to do hair, alcohol, and a UA. Okay, if we have any other visits that are inappropriate, then we'll move to therapeutic visits. If the child refuses another visit, then we'll move to therapeutic visits. If the child continues to refuse to attend those, then we're going to kick it to the child's therapist to recommend when we start visits back up. Like I said, we'll continue the department as temporary managing conservator. We'll continue the child's placement. I'll see you all back November 18th of 2025 on a 9 o'clock docket for the initial permanency hearing.
Oh, Your Honor, one more thing.
Quickly.
What's the situation with his sister, Esperanza?
We don't think that's going to be an appropriate placement.
I believe it is. I know that she can, also take care of him and, in the meantime until.
Did she decline wanting to be placement, Ms. Potts?
She didn't fully decline. She just told me that if that was the last option, but she had been between jobs, she just started a new one. Income's going to be lower. Plus, like I said, she's raising her younger sister and her own children. So that's a lot.
All right, well, let's just try to clarify with her whether she still wants to be considered or not. If she does, we can do the home study.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
Okay.
should I have her contact Ms. Potts?
No. Ms. Potts will take care of that. She knows how to contact her.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, see everybody back in November.
Thank you.
Thank you.